Oh, there's Mr. Mark Bell. There, Mark Bell. How you doing, man? Powered with your new steak shake, you are going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on a product that should be out in about 2-3 weeks that I'm really excited about. It's got steak in it. It has whey protein. It has collagen. It has liver. It has spleen. It has heart. It has pancreas, and collagen. It's got all the things that a bunch of things that people don't want to supplement with because they don't want to eat them, because they taste gross. And so I figured let's just throw it all in one shake. I've been a huge proponent of you abandon them because you pretty much just live off of meat nowadays. But yeah, I wanted to bring something to the public that that I thought was be different, different spin on things. And maybe for some people that can't eat the same amount of meat as Dr. Baker, 4 pounds a day or whatever it might be, maybe they're going to find this product to be useful.
So it's okay. So that's a promo. So it's not going to be it's going to be some sort of powdered, or is it going to, it's not going to be liquid. It's not going to be like a liquid like you showed in the commercial.
It's it's a powder. Yeah. The commercial is me messing around, and people will get to see that pretty soon. I just threw steak and a bunch of stuff right in a blender, eggs, just threw them in there whole with the shell on there and everything. And just
you drank. How did that taste, by the way? I don't know. I've never tried that. I mean, it looks like you actually drank
wasn't
some.
bad. I mean, I'm a meat eater. I love meat. I love eggs. I've eaten both of them raw before, so it blended up. It wasn't bad, and there was some bone broth in there as well, so it was pretty good.
I bet you get some people that'll actually do that too. After seeing your commercial there, that's funny.
Right.
I bet you there are people doing that stuff, and that'll probably
Inspired.
set off a new trend there. Speaking of trends, are you familiar with the latest scourge? I was talking to our audience members. White veganism is the latest sort of thing that is devastating to humanity. And there's if you're vegan and you're not calling out systemic injustice and racism, you're a white vegan. And I like I said, I'm doing my part to defeat white veganism. I've got a tomahawk steak in the sous vide right now, and I'm going to make sure I'm not afflicted with white veganism. So that's
you're a meat eating, Trump loving, gun holding son of a bitch, Dr. Baker.
Well, and it's funny. I'm not even political. I never really got into the politics.
We just need to lump all that in.
You get lumped in. You get lumped into those things. So, Mark, let me just. How are you been, man? What have you been up to? Let's talk about what's going on with you. Like, I know we had a little clubhouse thing, and I still don't understand the clubhouse thing. I'm like, you guys, because people had asked me to come on Clubhouse. I'm like, I don't know. It sounds. And then when you guys said, I'll hop on. I know these guys are cool dudes, but What's the story with Clubhouse? Are we going there now? Is that the new thing?
I think so. I think it's here to stay, or some sort of other iteration of it, just because of how easy it is to kind of pop into a room and chat with different people. I think you already have it going on though, because you've been doing this on Zoom for quite some time, where you have, like you said, 50, 75, sometimes 100 people on there, and you're very interactive with your audience. I think this gives the audience an opportunity to maybe talk to their celebrities, their heroes, the people that they follow and the people they enjoy. So I think it just gives people a little easier opportunity. And then for people like you and I, we can create a room together that's carnivore, and we could have a couple of, kind of material experts in there, and people can fire away and ask questions. So it's kind of unbelievable. It can serve as like a seminar, or it can just serve as like entertainment as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of the impromptu, and the way it was pitched to me is like there's celebrities or super intelligent people that you can mingle with, and you're included in a super club, and it's like, it's kind of like, so it kind of sounded kind of like a little sketchy to me, because like, oh, you're going to be with important people, and I was like, I'm not really into that, but we had fun the other day. So I mean, and I didn't even know. I looked in there, I've got some 100 followers. I was like, I didn't even know anything about this Clubhouse stuff, but were those people that were in there, because I had to leave because I had to go do another meeting, I wasn't there the whole time, but do they have a chance to interact somehow, or is it they just type in chat questions, or can they talk, or how does that work?
Yeah, people can just like raise their hand, I guess. I wasn't controlling it. Like, I'm not a technology person, so I guess people can chime in by raising their hand, and then you simply, let them into the room and they get a chance to talk. And so after you hopped off there, we had a lot of fans that came in, because we had you and Stan Efferding, Matt Vincent, Ed Cohn. We had a nice
Yeah, no, I remember all the good
good
guys.
conglomerate of guests on there. But when you guys dropped off, we invited some of the guests to talk, and people shared their story. One guy actually lost 150 pounds by following I think he started out keto and then kind of shifted into more of a carnivore style diet. So it gives people a great opportunity to interact with some of these celebrity people, but then also maybe hear from people that are, maybe more similar to them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat, and I definitely want to point out there's a gal, one of our members, Nancy Smith, who says, "Hey, Mark, I knew you as a little boy. Your dad had did our taxes since the early 1980s."
Oh,
And I
awesome.
want to tell you, Nancy has got a special place in my heart because she has been afflicted with cerebral palsy, but she's been attending these meetings, has gone carnivore now, and now she's in there lifting weights in the meeting. Like I can't see her right now, but she's oftentimes doing dumbbell presses while I'm talking, we've got other people walking on the treadmill, and so we're trying to. Yeah, there she is. And as you scroll through, you see she's got the purple dumbbell going up and down. And that just puts a smile on my face that we are able to impact these people. I made a joke this morning about for the next pandemic, pro tip, get as fat as possible so you can be first in line to get your vaccine. Obviously I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I'm just frustrated with the lack of messaging, the central messaging that could be coming from the CDC, from Anthony Fauci and governors, and about, hey, let's go on a 10-minute, like you're very popular, 10-minute walk. I walk every day. Eat right. Just cut out the ultra processed junk food, if nothing else, and go walk every day. That could be such a simple message. And I think it would save lives, but we're not willing to do that. And I don't know if that frustrates you. It frustrates me to no end. I try to be comical about it. Sometimes I scream and yell about it, but it's kind of, I was just shadow banned the other day. I was like, people are telling me, hey, we can't find you on Instagram. You type in your name, you got to type in ShawnBaker all the way to the 1960 196 before your name pops up. And I'm like, that's silly. But I just checked this morning. So I guess complaining about it has gotten it to come back on. But what are your thoughts on, and I know I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you think as an influencer, because you're clearly an influencer, you've had a huge amount of celebrity within the fitness world, the strength guy, you got the strongest guys in the world, always regularly talking to you. You've been around those guys, Ed Cohn, Stan, on and on and on. Do you feel that we're dropping the ball a little bit on our messaging around this pandemic?
I think, government officials and stuff are going to, continue to stick to what they've always stuck to. And that's, they have policies and they got certain things they got to do. And they really don't seem to address the bottom line of the underlying problem of what's going on. And who better knows that than a former doctor? Because a lot of times we're doing things to address some of the symptoms, but maybe not, helping with some of the root causes of things. And so if we just are to look at a pandemic in general, most pandemics last about 18 months. We're about right there. We're getting, but this thing will slow down, and it won't be talked about at some point. The media won't have anything to continue to talk about. It doesn't exist in other countries at the moment because they have stopped talking about it. It's a new way for people to die. So if you just think about texting and driving, it's an unfortunate way to die, but people die that way. It's a new way of people dying. And so COVID-19, I think, just like other things that have happened in the past, is going to be around for a while. But imagine if the conversation from the beginning was, hey, look, we got something that we're not really sure about. It seems pretty scary. Let's practice some social distancing. Let's wash our hands. Let's wear a mask. And then, oh, by the way, we should also really stay invested in our health, and here's some great people you can follow. Here's a couple great books you can, but they're just really not equipped to do anything like that. Imagine the progress that people could have made in 18 months. I know people within 1 month who have reduced their diabetic medication. I mean, you've seen miraculous healing, people's skin, people's hair, people's fingernails, people's toenails, people's hearts. It's been even, now they're kind of linking cancer as a metabolic disease, having a lot to do with the foods we ingest. And so it's unbelievable the changes that you can make with a little bit of fitness and just some mindfulness around your food. Imagine just saying, hey, you know what? let's just look at a little bit of intermittent fasting, see if you can end your meal a little earlier at night. And let's see if you can push back your breakfast a little bit during the day. Let's go after protein, try to eat about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day, have a serving of vegetables, have some fruit, go on a couple walks. And I don't need to intervene or give you an intervention on any other aspects of your diet. But if you can follow a couple of those things, you're probably going to, have an opportunity to be a lot healthier than you are now, because the standard American diet is the perfect diet to not only get something like coronavirus, but to actually have some symptoms that, really compromise your health. So, I have an aunt that got the coronavirus and she got through it just fine, but then she is now, having a little bit of trouble. She's got like some brain fog and things like that. And my dad was telling me about it this morning. I was like, give me her number. I'll call her up and we'll talk about nutrition. And I guarantee you that it's probably within 5 days, she's going to feel a lot better. I don't think nutrition is the only thing that solves all these things. There's still a lot that's probably unknown, but shit, it can't hurt. It can only help. And we know that a lot of people that are getting the coronavirus and getting very ill from it have low vitamin D levels. And oftentimes that is from making poor health choices over and over again.
Yeah, and like I said, as I'm this community is a carnivore-based community. I'm a carnivore-based guy, but I just say, hey, just stop eating the ultra-processed food. Just stop with that. And if anybody just and do a little bit of walking, and I think of that message. And I disagree that it's hard, because I was in Seattle the other day driving around. We rented a car, and on the radio, it's playing the song, but in between, it would tell you who the artist was, and then it would say, make sure you social distance. Make sure you sneeze into your elbow. Just little helpful tips. They could easily say, make sure you don't eat ultra processed food. Make sure you get a little bit extra. There's no additional required infrastructure you have to build to get that message out. It's just saying a few extra words. So I just feel that, I get it that people don't agree on the same nutrition plan, but I think everybody agrees that living on Twinkies and ice cream and Doritos is not healthy. There's no one that's going to make that argument. Maybe Lane Norton will make it in the context of a calorie in, calorie out, calorie balance type. But I think that's really a poor, I think every study out there sort of seems to show that food, particularly, not only, it is eaten in excess. Kevin Hall showed us that the ultra processed food, we just eat in excess, and that's just the way it works. So we all know that type of things. I saw a guy sent me, he said he was diabetic. Blood glucose in the morning has been as high as 350. Carnivore 1 week, and now it's 89, the lowest it's been in forever. His whole life, he hasn't remembered that. So we do see these rapid, dramatic metabolic changes that can happen in very short order, quicker than the time it takes you to get two vaccines, for sure. If you got to wait 12 weeks between, or whatever the waiting time is for the particular vaccine, you can make a huge difference there.
You've made changes, over the years. You used to be a lot heavier. I myself used to be 100 pounds heavier, and I've made a lot of changes to my nutrition and changes to my day-to-day habits. But I like what you said there about like some of this not being hard. It's not hard. It's not difficult. And I think that when people start to make a choice on what style of diet they're going to do, and when people start to make a choice on their fitness, they need to start with something that's so easy that it's almost impossible to refuse to do it. And that's why I talk about a 10-minute walk, because a 10-minute walk is ridiculous on how easy it is. You could say, come on, you slouch, like get out there and just walk for a couple minutes. There's really no way you're only going to walk for 10 minutes. Probably every single time that you go for a 10-minute walk, you're going to walk for 15. You might walk a little bit further. I think people are always waiting to get hit with a bout of motivation. They're like, come on, Dr. Baker, get me fired up. Give me some motivation. But motivation happens from movement. It doesn't happen in the reverse fashion that people think it does. You don't listen to a song, get motivated, and then go do something. Sometimes that happens. You get like a synergy from that. Sometimes you feel good because you watch David Goggins yell at you and you got a little fired up from it. But what really motivate you is the actual action, the actual doing of something. So if you start to go on that 10-minute walk, you may find on that 10-minute walk that you're going to be convincing yourself either to walk a little bit further, walk a little bit faster. Maybe now you're having conversation about, you know what, you should go to the gym today. I've learned this, over many, many years, is that, you need incremental progress in the gym, but you also need it outside the gym. And when it comes to fitness, the easiest thing to do is just to say, I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to do like one body part or one exercise. And again, it's so absolutely ridiculous to say something like that, because you're not going to get prepared for the gym, drive to the gym, do all the things that are involved in gymming, just to only do one exercise. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. So make these things so simple that they're hard to get rid of, or they're hard habits to not do. Lower the barrier of entry into all of your good habits, and raise the level of entry into any of your bad habits. So some people will get rid of all the junk food in their house. Other people don't really have the option because maybe some other members of the family still like to eat that way, but still just make it really hard. Put your junk food in a totally different room, like take it out of the pantry and put it somewhere else where it's kind of a pain in the ass. You got to get on a step stool to get it down or something. Like, make it tough on yourself to get those things, but the stuff that's good for you, have that within arm's reach at all times.
Yeah, we, talking about the 10-minute walks, and I, like I said, I get every day I start the day with the dog. I got dogs. The dogs are a good way to make sure you walk a lot. So if you have a pet, but I mean, we've got members in this group, and I don't see her today, but again, I'm Heather from the UK, and she was literally bedridden for years. She couldn't even hardly get out of bed. She had to walk, like she could barely walk around her house with assistance aids. She went on carnivore. She's now literally dancing and running in the streets now. I mean, she went from barely being able to walk across her house to doing those things. So we see these amazing things, but I want to, this, and I'm sure you've seen no lack of frustration with regard to the fact that they close all the gyms, or in a lot of places, gyms are shut down. I assume super training never shut down. I mean, I've got a home gym. I've been very lucky. I mean, lifting has been an integral part of my life, since I was 14 years of age. And I mean, when I had the resources, the financial resources to start putting into a home gym, I did. And so I can get great workouts at home. I've got, hundreds of pounds of weight. I can do just about everything I need to do. In fact, we're moving up to Seattle, or not Seattle, but near Seattle, a little town, a little small house in the woods out there. And we're on about 4 acres, but we got this super long round driveway that it's about a quarter mile. It goes up around the house, behind the house, back around, and makes a big loop. And what I'm thinking about that drive is, I'm going to pick up a big 115 pound or 200 pound medicine ball. I'm going to walk it. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I'm just nutty about that. Yeah, I know you're the same way. It's like you say, lift through it. I mean, I think that's a wonderful phrase. So let's talk about, what do you mean by that when you say lift through it? Because what's going on in life?
Yeah, a lot of times I've met people over the years that have stayed connected to their fitness and lifted through all kinds of different situations in their life where things just got really hard, things got really dark. I know, a handful of individuals that have overcame, some severe like family issues, cancer, heart disease, just losing siblings, losing people in their lives. I myself lost my mom. I lost my brother, lost many, many friends. I used to be a professional wrestler. So probably about half the roster of people that I knew are gone. And, lifting weights has been something that has helped me tremendously to stay connected to what I can actually do as a person. And it's something that helped transform my life forever. And for a long time, I kind of just thought that was me. And then when I started to hear these stories from other people, I was like, oh my God, like everyone's kind of lifting through it, or at least everybody around me. As a kid, I was labeled dumb. I was put in special classes and stuff, and I learned a lot slower than most. And so that was an identity that I took on. That was a story that I bought, but I didn't really realize that, just each person has their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And I actually didn't really understand that weakness, so to speak, was going to actually become a massive strength, because I was a little slower, but being slow is actually an amazing virtue for business. Not necessarily like, acting slow or reacting slowly, but being patient is huge for business. Shit just takes a really long time. You make a new product and it takes a long time. And so staying connected to lifting has been something that has always given me an opportunity to like prove myself to myself and improve myself for myself. not end up in some things where I'm comparing myself to other people and things like that. When I was a kid, I remember my mom, I was super frustrated with schoolwork, and I was actually crying. I was so upset about it because it was taking me forever to do my homework. And my dad kind of opposite of me in that sense. He's super smart that way, and he's able to pick up these things really quickly. And so I was frustrated. My mom said, I think I was like 12 or something. And my mom was like, hey, when you play football, like, who's the best football player on the field, And I'm like, I am, and she's like, when you run a race against your friends, because believe it or not, I was actually pretty fast. She's like, who wins? And I was like, I do. She's like, when you arm wrestle with your friends, who wins? And I'm like, so she listed off all the, I could throw a football further. I could kick the ball further. If we did push-ups, I could do more. I was a very physical kid. And I always liked a lot of that stuff, probably because I was maybe a little bit more apt for that than anything else. And that just kind of, my mom said, you're good and you're gifted at the things you're good and gifted at. And it's your job to figure out what that means and what that's about and to explore that. And she's like, so what? You're not good at math. She's like, what's it matter? Who cares? She's like, this is just for school, and it's not going to really, it's not going to negatively impact your life at all. You're going to end up feeling really good about the things that you're good at. And, she put a lot of, I guess, gave me a lot of confidence once I kind of realized, like, oh yeah, like, okay, I'm worse at this thing, but that was my focus. Once she was like, oh yeah, but look at all these things that you're better, you're better than other people, or you're able to excel at. Why don't you maybe put a little bit more focus into that? And so lifting, being physical, all that stuff has helped my mentality, helped transform my life forever. And it's part of the reason why we say lift through it over here at Slingshot and Super Training Gym.
Yeah, the point about, the schoolwork, I've got a little 8-year-old boy here, and he just had a spelling bee, and he had to do 500 words in English and 500 words in French. And, he's 8 years old, and the words they gave him were pretty challenging. I mean, I'm like, some of those words I had to look to make sure I was spelling them right. I mean, and I sat there and went through every word with him, and we, if he missed one, we'd go through it 3 times and make sure he could spell it, and then we go back to the hard words, and we did it, and we did it. And, he ended up like third in the spelling bee, whatever. And he was not having fun. I was not having fun. This was like, this just sucks, man. Hurry up and spell the words right. So I have to, because I was I keep going until I get them. I'm like, I was taking for a walk. I said, how long are we walking? I said, until you don't make spelling mistakes. So we ended up going for an hour walk because he had a lot of hard words, and we kept going and going and going. But I don't really care if he could spell those words. I mean, it wasn't like that's going to, make that big of an impact, but it just teaches you work ethic a little bit. And I think that's probably the same thing with math. You're going to have things you're good at. You're going to have things you're not so good at, whether they're, the way we put value on society. Some people are incredible artists, whether it's, painting or poetry or music or, things that I have no skill. I am probably, a semi-moron when it comes to musical skill. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm better at certain other things. And I think that's important to, put that stuff in, to say, hey, look, we've got our strengths and weaknesses. But I think that work ethic, the ability to continue to go, we all know you suck at something when you first start. My kid gets frustrated because he couldn't play soccer very well because I was killing him on the side. And I don't play soccer, but I'm like, hey, I got 200 pounds on you. I can bump you around pretty easily, and he's frustrated. I said, look, it's just the way it is. You're going to get better. You got to keep trying. And so I think that's the effort here. And I think the same thing I see in this community. It's just like, we got people that are continuing to push forward. I mean, there's, and you see those people that have given up. You see some people, and it's just a really, really bad place to be in. I mean, there's some bad things that happen. And, and you talk about, I know you had lost your brother years ago. You recently lost your mother. And you're still, you still got a smile on your face. You're still doing the things that I lost my father this year. It's tough, but you kind of keep pushing and going and going. If you couldn't lift weights, what would that mean to you?
For a small period of time, we had to quarantine, and I did shut down Super Training Gym. Things get complicated when you own a business. And I was like, okay, well, in this weird scenario, I have to put my business first, and so we shut down Super Training. And for a little while, I was still working out in there, and I was like, you know what? it's kind of sucks. Like, it doesn't feel right. Like, I don't have my team. I don't have my staff around me lifting with me. Normally we're all lifting together and we all get a great benefit from lifting. And I was like, they don't have access to it. And I'm like, neither do I. So I spent some time, out of the gym, and I ran and I did push-ups and I wore like a weighted vest and did a bunch of other things, a bunch of other activity. And for that time period, I was fine. It was okay. But lifting weights has just been something it's part of my life. I started when I was really young, and I don't know what my life would be without lifting weights, but it helps me work out a lot of things in my brain. I believe that we have kind of multiplicity. I think that we have, multiple personalities going on in there. And the person that you see right now on this Zoom call is not the same person that squatted 1,080. So I've been through many, transformative things, but I think the gym has been something that has probably helped me the most. A lot of times when someone tells me that they don't exercise, they don't work out, they don't do anything like rigorous, I'm really kind of baffled. I'm like, well, what do you do with yourself? Because I don't know how you challenge yourself in a similar fashion. You got guys on the internet like Gary V. I'm actually a huge fan. He's a great motivator. He's got great information, tells people how they can make money. He's super creative. But when he's talking about like grinding and going hard, I'm like, he's not doing that physically. Like, he's just like, how hard can you go mentally, or how hard can you go, in investing in the stock market or something like that. Like, I personally just don't think that that's that difficult. When somebody starts doing it in other aspects of their life, and I see them in a way that is, they're going hard, in the gym, they're going hard outside the gym in their business, they're going hard with just everything they got. I got a little bit more respect for that. That holds a lot more clout to me. So I'm just kind of one of those people, like, if you're not sweating, I'm not talking to you. Like, I want to see people that are really working hard, not only mentally, but also physically as well. So the gym has been a great measuring stick for me. Sometimes we have new employees here. We got people that come and check out the gym. I take them around the gym and I show them stuff, and I get to really learn a lot about them in that process. If I say, hey, here's this 200-pound kettlebell we have, well, it says a lot about somebody if they try to pick it up, right? If I show somebody, we have a thing here called the tank. If I show them the tank has wheels, but it also has resistance, and you push it, if someone's like, oh, can I try it? That tells me a lot about a person. They're not afraid to maybe look uncomfortable for a minute. They're not afraid to try something they've never done before, and they're doing it in front of a stranger. It gives you some good insight, into who that person is. And so for me, I don't know what I would do without lifting, because I don't even really know who I would be without it.
Yeah, it's an interesting, kind of a Rorschach test, so to speak, is, you get a look at somebody's, they have them stare at a blob and they tell you what it is. And you're like, that tells you about their perceptions. And it's the same thing. You're kind of doing that with that kettlebell. And I've seen your kettlebell and I've swung it a bunch of times. And, I think that's a really interesting tool. One of the things that, with the organization I have here, and I have my partner, and we have a lot of volunteers, every one of them has done a carnivore diet and has benefited from that. And so to me, that's like, you're sure you can have people that are talented accountants and this thing, but I think if you have a passion for something, you're going to figure out how to be, an asset to a team. I think that's for sure. And I think when you're looking at, because you're a team leader, you're a leader, you're a company builder, and so you want to surround yourself with people that, at least have that same sort of mindset. And, I like, Masa told me she's allergic to mediocrity, and people that, don't have the drive or the internal motivation to, get after when you need to. And well, let me, this is one thing, because, you and I have both pushed ourselves pretty hard in our lives, both physically and otherwise, with the squatting, and I've done some pretty hard stuff physically. Do you feel that because you're now in your mid 40s, and I think you just turned 44, if I'm not mistaken. What are your thoughts on doing that now? I mean, is that something that you still feel that you don't feel that you're needed? You need to squat. I know you recently bench pressed 500 pounds at a body weight of 220, which is ridiculous. I'm impressed. I suck at bench press. I'll never be a good bench presser. But do you feel that there's some counterproductivity in that because, to squat 1,080, it was an obsession. It was an all-encompassing obsession in your life. Everything else got put on the back burner. I think, I don't imagine you regret doing that, but are you interested in doing that type of thing anymore at this point in your life?
I did all I wanted to do with powerlifting, so I don't really feel a need to do that. Nowadays, it's more like what feels heavy or what feels not even necessarily heavy, but what gives me the resistance that I'm looking for me to get the results that I'd like to get. So, it really almost doesn't matter. I mean, of course, the ego is always stepping in there a little bit, but I'm like, if I can get a good feel out of 225, then I'll just use that. And so it's kind of depressing in a way, and it's kind of like it's not as fun because it doesn't hold the same challenge as lifting the heavier weights. But I'm just recognizing and noticing new challenges. Like a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately, I'm trying to do all my workouts where I only breathe in and out of the nose, and that poses its own challenge. Trying to do higher reps or trying to superset, leg extensions with leg press and going back and forth is pretty darn brutal. So, I still get a great stimulus from the workouts, but it's not, it's not a total annihilator, and it's not like it doesn't test your like will in the same way. But I still go into deep water in my training. I'll still, swim out as far as I can and with no regard about, how I'm going to get back. So I still do that in my training. So even though the training looks so much different, it still ends up being about the same. I might do 100 reps on like a leg press, which is way different than, trying to max out and do 800-pound squat or 1,000-pound squat. And then also you are trying to do some of these things with no regard for tomorrow. But nowadays I have a regard for tomorrow because I have kind of recognized this whole thing as a much longer process. And so if I'm going to try something, if I'm going to do something new in a workout, I'll just do like one set of it. And I'll kind of half-ass it on purpose so that I get a feel for it. Okay, I know what Dr. Baker told me to try these. I'm going to give him a shot. Okay, I'm going to give him a feel at the end of a workout, see how it is. Then the next week I might, and over time, I'll have some incremental progress there. Whereas when I was young, I'd be like, Dr. Baker's doing it. I'm jumping in and I'm going to, just go for it. What I've learned, and part of the reason why I've switched and I'm doing things differently nowadays, is just, to me, it doesn't feel worth it to kind of limp around, day in and day out, get up off the couch slowly and just have all this, all the reps and all the sets and all the weights kind of sitting in my ligaments, tendons, and joints. I'd rather feel more spry and be able to move around a lot better. So I choose to lift quite a bit lighter. And the times when I go and just absolutely kill myself, it might only happen once or twice a week rather than every single workout.
Yeah, there's definitely, like I said, wisdom comes with age for sure. You kind of learn this stuff, but like I said, I'm impressed. I mean, you've probably seen the videos, a 90-year-old guy up in Canada, weighs 147. He's pulling 405 for a triple. It's sumo, so you got to criticize him a little bit on that. But I mean, I think being able to be around the game so where you can do that in your 40s and 50s, because you've seen a lot of guys that have blown themselves up in their 20s and 30s, and they never can do anything. After 40, they're walking around, they're limping, they got injuries, they got artificial hips, they're probably getting fat and diabetic and all those things. So you don't want to end up there. I think lifting is great. Speaking of that, Simon is here, and we've got sometimes we have kiddos in here. So Simon's got his little daughter, Tilly in there, who's 15, and he's asking about weightlifting for kids. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I had my kids lifting stuff when they were 4. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on kids lifting? I know you got a couple of them. I think you got 2 kids, right, Mark?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 children. Lifting's great. Lifting's great for any age. I don't see any harm in it whatsoever. I know there's some people have some speculation that they think it could be harmful because of, the extra weight that's put on the body. But if you're to go out and do like sprints or do plyometrics, which a lot of kids end up doing because they play sports where they need to jump higher or be more explosive, you're putting, I think it's like 12 to 16 times the amount of body weight. So multiply your body weight times 12, and that's a weight that you would never be able to lift. You can't match that in the gym. But I think that weight training is great. I think you want to teach kids about the importance of movement, more so than just like flat out lifting. Lifting can be great, and if the kids enjoy it and they have fun with it, that's fine. But I think you want to teach them how to squat properly, how to bench press properly, how to do some of these movements, overhead pressing. And maybe they're not really, they don't always have to lift. I mean, they could drag a sled, they could do like step ups, they could do box jumps, they could do resistance, and for them to get good, some good solid training. And so, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of lifting. And I think kids and people that are older, I think they're both in a similar category where they don't lift often enough. I think kids should start, fairly young as you can get exposed to it, I think is fine. And elderly people, and then they also share the same nutrition protocol. They both eat a ton of carbs. I mean, I guess everybody eats tons of carbs, but young kids eat hardly any protein, it seems like, except for maybe from some fast food burgers here and there. And people that are 65 plus, same way. They're eating like porridge and yogurt, or not yogurt, but oatmeal and cereal and all these kind of softer foods that don't really have protein in them. So yeah, get your kids working out, and your kids should eat the same as you, by the way. There's really no reason, just like our dogs, they make dog food, but dogs aren't really supposed to eat dog food. Dogs are supposed to eat meat. And so, your children should be fitnessing just like you, and they should be eating, similar to you probably.
Yeah, that's one thing that always sort of boggles my mind is, as adults, you realize this eating pattern is making you sick and unhealthy, and you're willing to still feed it to your kids. I mean, I'm just like, and it doesn't necessarily be, I'm not saying you have to put your kids on a carnivore diet, but, eating all this processed junk food, and it's convenient. I mean, the easiest diet to stick to is a standard American diet because it's cheap, it's accessible, it tastes good, it's convenient. I mean, that's the easiest diet for most people to do, and that's what they do. But to not put that on your, I mean, my kids were retreating nutrition levels as soon as they learn how to read. I mean, it's like, how much sugar's in that? Okay, Daddy, can I have this protein bar? We'll go look at the contents, at least get them thinking that direction. And then, of course, eating a lot of meat, eating a lot of good, healthy food. My kids, and I medicine balls, I get them. We'd play catch with a medicine ball. We'd take a 6-pound medicine ball and just play catch. Just kind of when they were 6, 7 years old, we're throwing it back and forth. It's teaching them how to, catch and react, and, throwing it in the ceiling. I've been to your gym throwing the medicine balls to the ceiling. I get my kids doing that stuff too. Instead of using a 20-pound ball, they're using a 4-pound ball.
And then you see it's just part of life, and I think it's completely irrational, for adults to, cook up some really great food, cook up some steak or cook up some fish, and then order pizza for their kids, or cook up a frozen pizza for their kids. It doesn't really make any sense. Having said that, like, that still gets done in my family here and there. We've worked on doing better, and that's all you can really do. Like, people that are listening to this, don't feel like shamed by it. Don't say, oh shit, we do that, and then just think it's too hard or too difficult to make changes. But just incorporate the changes when you can. Just do the best job you can. And I think you would agree with this statement too. I know you said, don't eat processed food, but the next thing right behind that would be try to eat more protein, because we just don't see people eating enough protein. So you got to get your protein in, because your protein will help keep your hunger down. And when your hunger is kept at bay, staying on any sort of plan is going to be way easier.
Yeah, I think, there's concerns around protein and cancer and longevity. And I think that's all based on really kind of weak nonsense science. It's not extrapolatable to humans, but certainly with children. I mean, gosh, your kids are in a huge growth phase, and, if anything, they need plenty of protein. And I find, as a parenting hack, I've got 4 kids, and when I'm feeding them all, if you don't feed them enough protein and, I would argue some animal fat to keep them satiated, you're going to hear every 15 minutes, Dad, I'm hungry. Dad, I'm hungry. And I'm like, just, I sit there and make sure you finish all that. And even if I push them to the point where they're like, oh, I'm stuffed. Then I don't have to hear from them for 6, 8, 10 hours. Then they're good till dinner, Saturday morning. Here, I'll make a bunch of, eggs and bacon. I'll make these little chaffles and, I'll make it kind of like I'm sure you're familiar with those now, but I mean, that makes a huge difference, with the kiddos. I've seen, tell me what's the evolution of super training right now? I was there a couple of years ago and I've trained with you a few times now and visited and we've done some podcasts, but what are the new things going on? I know you've got Slingshot, I'm sure is still doing well. You've had all these different products over the years. What's the 2021 super training thing going on? Where are you guys heading? What do you think is going on with you guys?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. We have a bunch of new equipment coming in pretty soon. We got a lot of the team members are back in here nowadays, and from the gym perspective, the gym is free, so anybody that's listening to this can come Saturday, Sunday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. But please hit us up on Instagram, which is, I think it's like the Super Training Gym on Instagram. Just inquire so that we know you're coming, because maybe I'm not here or maybe some other people aren't here or whatever. But yeah, just let us know that you want to come in. But yeah, the gym's free. Super training isn't necessarily a business, but it is a huge, supporter of the business of Slingshot. And it's kind of where everything was born and came from. I invented the Slingshot because of super training and because of my pursuit of, wanting to bench press over 800 pounds and some of the things I did years ago. Some other new things that are going on, just kind of around here in general. We are working on a podcast studio. We have a podcast studio already, but we're just kind of working on bringing that up to par with the amount of viewers and stuff that we have. In addition to that, we are also working on just kind of bringing everything up as much as we can. And we have a lot of new products coming from Slingshot. It's kind of our first ever venture into making some products that are like accessories for cables and things like that in the gym. We actually created some of these products that are, I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with like a bamboo bar, but anybody that is, we've created these accessory things that you can put on, like a lat pull down or tricep push down type of thing. I'm really excited about it because I know that people will get a lot out of that. In addition to that, we created a couple other things, and they're all this stuff. Sometimes people look at it and they're like, that's a gimmick. What's that for? Why would you, like a Slingshot, for example, which is a supportive upper body device for bench press, push-ups, dips. People look at it and like, oh, you're just trying to make money off of people that lift. It's just a product that you can utilize if you've ever had a hurt shoulder, if you want to improve your bench press, you want to handle more weight, you want to bench press with a little bit better form. I'm sure there's tons of people out there that don't have any issues with their shoulders. That can crank out push-ups and dips and bench press all day long, and they might not need the product. But the product they're there to help enhance, and they're there to help give another option for your lifting. And for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lower the barrier of entry into fitness. And so what do I usually hear people complain about that derails them, that sidetracks them? It's normally an injury. There are people like, oh man, I was really going at it for a while and then I hurt my elbow, or then I hurt my knee. And so we make elbow sleeves and knee sleeves and wrist wraps. And some people don't need any of it. Some people need all of it to get themselves through each and every workout. So it's all there if anybody needs it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You see some people that I mean, they come in, they're smeared in Bengay, and they've got all the heat rubs on. I got like 6 different every joint is covered, and they look like a walking mummy or something like that.
Right.
But you've been around this a long time. I mean, I've been lifting even longer than you have, Mark. And some of the basics are still there. Squatting, deadlifting, bench pressing. The powerlifting. Put a bunch of steel in your hand and just go to town. Have you seen anything that's really said like, wow, this is a big game changer over the years? Maybe it's, I hear people on blood flow restriction bands. I mean, obviously you've got the Slingshot. Have you seen anything, for the first time in years, I added a new piece of equipment to my gym, which was one of those trap bars. I got one of Chris Duffin's Kabuki bar, just because I was like, I'm deadlifting so much, just because it changes, it changes the mechanics a little bit, kind of puts things away from the posterior chain more anteriorly. And just something I like to do. But what have you seen over the years that, obviously there's been a lot of stuff coming on, just like supplements. I remember everybody was talking about chromium piconolate and the metabolols and all the crap that we've seen over the years. And then no one's using it 2 years later. But, what equipment has really sort of said, wow, this has really made a big, significant difference in the most amount of people?
There's been absolutely no change. There's been no change in nutrition, and there's been no change in fitness. There are things that make things a little bit more convenient, like a product like Element. Some of these products that are on the market that might provide you with, that's an electrolyte product. It's a great product, and it tastes good. It's an alternative to drinking some water and just pouring some salt on your food here and there. But it just gives you another option. And I think what we're really looking at is not necessarily I don't think there's been any changes in fitness. I don't think there's been any changes in people want to talk about research and the science. And I know that you're working on getting some research and some science behind the carnivore diet, but the fact that you even need to do that makes me want to just blow my brains out, because I'm like, why would we need any research? This is part of the human diet. What else are we supposed to eat? It can get confusing. I don't know what plants we should eat, what plants we shouldn't eat, and what type of nuts we should eat, what type of nuts we shouldn't eat. And I don't pretend to know, with eating certain things, how it's going to, damage the planet. And it's hard to know some of these things. And that's where some knowledge, that's where some research can be beneficial to assist people. But you and I both know you can eat as much meat. You can eat so much, you can eat tons of meat. You can eat pounds and pounds of meat and eggs every day and have absolutely no issue whatsoever, because there's just going to be a limit to how much of that your body really wants to eat at some point. I mean, I can't even really think of an exception to that rule. I guess if somebody was already sick and they already had some issues, potentially there could be some danger in it. But when it comes to fitness and nutrition, I am not seeing anything really new. I'm getting more convenient. They really don't replace, grabbing some dumbbells and pushing them over your head, or grabbing some dumbbells and just bending over and rowing them, or grabbing a barbell and, doing a clean and jerk, or picking up a heavy ball, or wearing a weight vest. You can't replace a lot of the things that have been around forever. And, part of the evidence of that is, look at the way Arnold used to be built. Look at the way Bill Kazmaier used to be built. I mean, these guys weren't lacking muscle mass. These guys weren't lacking, a good look that other people would admire, and other people would say, shit, those guys are really strong. So there hasn't really been a change in any of it in decades, really. There's a little bit more knowledge of some nutrition and some techniques, I guess, but the nutrition has been there forever too. I mean, Arnold was doing similar diets to what you see guys do now, and same with a lot of the other legends. So I haven't really seen a huge change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess you see this on Instagram. You see some strong people. I mean, some strong, even women. I mean, I see women are pulling and repping 500 pounds in the deadlift. And I mean, you didn't see that so much. I remember I met Jan Todd, who was the world's strongest woman. She actually was, when I was at University of Texas, I trained under Jan and Terry Todd when I first started doing powerlifting back in the 1980s. And, she was, I think she pulled 551 back, gosh, how many years ago, at a body weight of probably close to 200 pounds. And, now you're seeing that pretty routinely. You see a lot of guys, and maybe they're doing it sumo style, but it does seem like, a 700-pound deadlift, an 800-pound deadlift is kind of, it's kind of pretty routine at this point. So there's something going on. Is it just more people getting into the sport, or are people just getting stronger? Obviously, drugs are playing a role to some degree as well. What do you think what do you think is driving that phenomenon of more people being strong? Is it just because muscle is now being accepted and we're not all a bunch of joggers anymore? I mean, because I mean, I'm really impressed. I see these people that are just getting extremely strong, even at very young ages.
Other people doing it is a huge help. And I think social media, I guess I left that out of the mix now that I think about it. Social media has had an impact on fitness and the strength world. The 1,100-pound deadlift, that was done by some of the world's strongest men. things like that might not have happened if it wasn't for the internet, just because it gets you notoriety, many years ago, you had to go through a lot of different things in order to be quote unquote famous. And many years ago, there was many degrees of separation between you and the higher ups, so to speak, or the famous, or the credible in a certain sport. Now, there's 1 degree of separation. If I can reach out to, if I can tweet LeBron James to get his attention, then I got him. So we have some different things going on. So I think that is a big part of it. If I see somebody else doing something, then I'm going to say, how many people have been inspired by you? They watch you swing around the kettlebells. They're like, I'm in my 50s and I've been using that as an excuse. I got arthritis. I got this, I got that. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start. If he could swing a 200-pound kettlebell, I should be able to swing a 100-pound one, right? And there's probably other people your age that are like, F ShawnBaker, I'm going to beat him in the row. I'm going to see if I can row harder than he can row, or I'm going to see if I can, they're going to be excited by the challenge to see if can more people in it. There's more people powerlifting. The sport continues to grow. And now what we're seeing is like, you don't have to even compete in powerlifting to get attention. You just need to throw it up on Instagram and you get what you want. So powerlifting, I always knew it was cool. And in 2006, 2007, around the time YouTube came around, I started a YouTube channel for that reason, to show people how cool it was. I was like, just people squatting 700 pounds, 800 pounds, some of these women squatting 600 pounds that are around my gym at the time. I'm like, people need to see this. I don't know why I was obsessed with it, but I was like, people are going to be astounded at how strong some people really, really are. And so those are 2 major changes. I think social media, I think also having more people. And then the third thing in there is there's not necessarily new equipment. There's not necessarily new supplements. There's not necessarily new things with your food. But the third thing I would throw in there is there are new techniques, and the technique of utilizing a lot of frequency in your training is something that was not explored that much when even as early as 10 years ago, at least when it came to powerlifting. So what I mean by frequency is just there's a bunch of different ways to get a stimulus from the muscle. One way is to lift really heavy. That's referred to as your intensity. Another way to get a stimulus is through like the amount of reps that you do. So we got like reps, we have sets, we have load. We also have something called volume, which is kind of the overall amount of reps and sets that somebody might do in a given workout. And those are all things that can make you strong. But something that people weren't really focusing on was frequency. How often, how many times a week do you do this? It's been really common forever to do things maybe once a week, and then maybe twice a week people would talk about. But this idea of doing things 3, 4, and sometimes doing them every single day and spreading out the fatigue, spreading out the volume over the course of a week, where you might do 60% one day, 2 days later you might do 70%, 2 days later you might do 80, and then restart the cycle at about 2.5% higher, and then kind of go through that for 3 or 4 times. And then maybe, there may be somewhere thrown in there, there's like a deload week or something like that. You can get unbelievably strong because now you're spending a ton of time doing the very exercise it is that you're working on. So it's mastery of the movement itself. And so those are some of the changes, but I don't think like bands or chains or, anything that was like invented or created has really moved the needle with strength or fitness.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, the 4-minute mile phenomenon, when Roger Bannister first shattered that barrier back in, I think it was 1950s, but no one thought it was possible. And then once he did it, I mean, within a few years, there was a slew of people that have done that. And so now you see, no one thought you could deadlift. I remember when Gary Heisey held the deadlift record at 925. Now you got guys that are pulling 1,000. Many people have done that now. So you see that if that guy can do it, I damn sure can do that. And that's what I motivate me, like with some of the rowing stuff I'm looking at. I looked at the world records and I say, that guy, one, he's not as good as me and he's uglier, so I'm going to beat him. That was my, I mean, you kind of weird stuff you put in your head, or I don't like him. And he's actually a really nice guy. And, I ended up breaking a record. But the point about, and I know you train with Louis Simmons, but I remember, years ago when I was working on my deadlift, this is back, 20 some years, 30 years ago. And Louis Simmons was talking about these Finnish loggers dragging logs out of the woods, and they had strong backs and they were able to deadlift. And it was just this sort of daily, everyday activity that makes you generally stronger. So my thinking at the time was, I'm going to go and deadlift 500 pounds every single day. This is when I was doing my surgical residency at the hospital. I was only getting, some days I wasn't getting sleep. Some days I was working, but I would every day, as soon as the gym opened at 4 a.m. before I had to go around on my patients, I'd walk in the gym, I'd load 500 pounds in the bar, I'd pick it up. And that'd been my whole workout for the day, but every day I did that. And I did that for 2 months. And I mean, I got really good at deadlifting 500 pounds, but I don't think I got much stronger. It's kind of funny. One of those things, there's such a specificity, the SAD principle, specific adaptation to impose demands. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just thinking about now, I'm motivated to go do some trap bar deadlifts after this. I'm going to eat my steak first, and I'm going to do that today. And I just did that a couple of days ago. But I think there is something with the frequency that's changed and that type of stuff. Let me ask you this one question, because I haven't talked to. How's Chris doing, by the way? Your brother Chris, what's he up to lately? How's he doing?
He's doing well. He's still in here training. I see him almost every day. We hit up some walks here and there, and he is. I think he's going down to Texas in a couple days. Hopefully, it doesn't freeze. Hopefully, it doesn't get frozen down there. But yeah, he's doing well. He's still carnivoring and still kicking ass in the gym and stuff.
Yeah. And so, and I know you had, just speaking to that, because you mentioned about not old people, but you had an aunt or a mother-in-law or somebody that was rheumatoid arthritis, went carnivore. And I know you had it was a while back, you were showing her. What was the story on her?
Yeah, my mother-in-law. So actually, the way this worked out was very interesting. And I remember what I said in the beginning of the show, talking about the 18 months that this coronavirus has been going on for. So my mother-in-law, I've been talking to her about a keto style diet, a carnivore style diet. I had her do the diet a couple times, and she had success, but she just had a hard time with adherence, And she was just telling me one day that she's fatigued, she's tired, not feeling great. She has type 2 diabetes. And I said, I showed you the carnivore diet, and remember, it worked well. So why don't we let's be a little bit more diligent with some walking. And she kind of likes lifting weights. So she would walk, she would lift. And I said, look, let's get you going, cranking on this carnivore diet, and gave her a bunch of options in terms of what she can eat, gave her some recipes. I think sometimes people, she knows how to cook, but some people just really suck at cooking, and they don't present themselves with good options. As funny as it sounds, you're now an expert at cooking a steak. And I think that a lot of people aren't. They don't know how to cook a steak. Some people have not really practiced it that much. We just talked about frequency and lifting and how much better you can get. When you cooked 1,000 steaks, you're going to be pretty darn good at cooking them. So I think that she just didn't really realize how many different things you can cook too. You got, hamburger and ground beef, and you can have sausage and bacon and eggs. It's just, you can make a chaffle. You can be creative with some of this process. And so when I was telling her about, some of the different things we can add in, we can have some cheese. And I was like, I don't really care if you're insanely strict about carnivore. Like, if you want to eat some vegetables or something like that, let's not worry about it. The vegetables aren't going to contribute anything harmful to you. And she started making progress. Her blood sugar went from it was in the 130 and 140s with metformin. So she was still, utilizing some stuff. And she would get it down, I think, by taking metformin twice a day into a more 90 range or so. And then as we had her do the carnivore diet, she was able to leave a lot of that behind for a while. And now what she's learned is she knows she can go full carnivore or full keto at any time and completely rid the medicines and not have to deal with them at all. But she likes her treats here and there. So she toes the line a little bit, and she'll have her treats here and there, but she uses a lot less medication. She feels a lot better. She's not lethargic. She's still lifting. She's still walking, and she's still eating meat. what I found interesting about it was the fact that right when I got her to lose about, she's not heavy, doesn't have excess body fat, but right when we got her to lose about 6 or 8 pounds of body weight, and just as her glucose started to shift into being at a consistent level, even without the medications, is right around the time the coronavirus hit. And she's 72. And so she came to me and she's like, I'm so grateful and thankful that we went through this journey, because now I have my health, and who knows what could have happened to me. So a lot of people can take the same measures. It's still not too late. Who knows how long a virus or any of this stuff will be circulating around. As you and I pointed out earlier, like it might only it only took her 3 months. It took her 3 months. She's had type 2 diabetes for the last 20 years. It took her 3 months, so it might feel difficult, but what I will tell you is a lot harder is to manage your diabetes all the time.
Yeah, people talk about different levels of hard. It's hard to be sick all the time, or it's hard to do the work that prevents you from being sick. One last question, Mark. I've seen you comment occasionally. You're talking about the race to zero followers. Sometimes you'll say stuff on social media that people aren't going to agree with, and you're going to lose followers. And I have that too. Are you concerned about that anymore? I mean, do you feel like, because of social media, you have to throttle what you say a little bit? Are you cognizant of that? Does that, and people have accused me for not throttling what I say, because sometimes I just say what I feel and damn the consequences, but I mean, there's some things that we're definitely seeing with censorship, deplatforming, shadow banning. Does that ever influence you?
It doesn't anymore, because I have removed all forms of social media. I don't have one thing of social media on my phone. And, I decided, and we decided as a company, it's just my best interest to completely step away from that, because my platform is my podcast, and my platform is podcasts like this, where I have long format. Because if I was to say something on social media in a snapshot and say, I'm not for equality, somebody could take that and just run with it and think that I'm a maniac and think that I'm a white supremacist. But what I would say is, well, hold on a second. Let me tell you why I'm not in favor of equality. I'm not even talking about race, but I'm talking about equality in terms of trying to socialize our government or socialize our society and try to make things equal for everybody. I personally just don't think that works out that way, because we're always trying to more, but you're going to have people that don't care to be that way as well. On top of that, if we're talking about equality, well, if somebody has a lot of success, well, we're going to have to, in order to make things equal, there's going to be somebody else that's got to take stuff away from that person that's successful and kind of put it into this bunch with everybody else, so everyone can stay the same. And so that's where, and it's just a differing of opinion. So if I talk in a long format, you and I can go back and you could say, I disagree with this, and I could say, I agree more with that. And we could find some common ground and find a couple spots where it might be a little bit more challenging to get through. But it's not, completely devastating, right? Whereas with social media, if you're to really truly sometimes voice your opinion, you'll get your balls chopped off. And some of the things that you've been saying recently about obesity, I think it's just to get a point across. Like I know you as a person. I know that you're a caring and a loving person. You have this hard exterior that you seem like a tough bastard, and you are a physical person. But you used to be a doctor, and here you are spitting out all this information every day that you don't have to share with people, but it's all an attempt to help people with their health. And so sometimes, like the other day when you said obesity is contagious, I was like, wow, it's like, that's actually awesome. That's an awesome point, because you do have like almost secondhand obesity going on in one way, because if mom and dad are fat, the kids are probably going to be fat. And that's not just genetic, that's environment, and that's decisions, and that's leading by example. The kids see that and they end up kind of going that direction. And then the other things that you mentioned about how right now it's impeding upon our freedom, the compromised are impeding upon the healthy. Because the compromised outweigh, literally, they outweigh the people that are healthy. And so, like, hey, let's wear a mask. Let's keep distance from, like, I don't care. I don't think I need to do anything for coronavirus personally. And somebody might think I'm a madman for saying something like that. And I actually don't even think that we should have done anything about it. I actually think that would be totally fine. But if you made a statement like that on social media, you'd get fried and people would say, I'm not buying your product. And then they would screen capture it and share it with a bunch of other people. They might do this with that clip that I just said right there. But I don't really give a fuck too much. And that's why I removed myself from some of that, because I know that once I get talking, I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to get excited and I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of people that hear my podcast or talk to me say, "Hey, you're a really different guy than you are on your tweets." And I'm like, a tweet is like a, a sentence, and that's not, and it's tough to get. And that's one of the problems with social media is the nuance is lost. But I mean, nobody wants to sit around and listen to, I mean, there are some people, but we consume sound bites, the news cycle, 30 second, 30 second story. Tell me a 30-second story, dumb it down for me, abbreviate everything. And that's how people want to consume stuff. I think with the point I'm trying to make, and you're right. I mean, I'm here every single day trying to inspire a community to get healthy, to get strong, to not participate in those things. And the point I'm making about it is obesity is a risk factor for viral transmission. It's not just yourself, but you are actually more contagious if you are obese. And that message is not, I don't know why that message is not being shared. It frustrates me. And I'm just like, if no one's going to say it, I'm going to. And, I mean, if I lose a few followers and have people pissed at me, so be it. I've already got, every vegan on the planet that already hates me, or not all of them, but I mean, I'm being hyperbolic there, but yeah, I mean, you're right. It is kind of a line you have to walk. And I definitely feel a little bit throttled. And I mean, you've got a film crew and you got guys that can do the social media. I don't have that. I'm doing it by myself, basically. I've got some people who help answer some messages, but beyond that, I mean, it's what I think, and I tend to think a lot, and then I'll share something, and sometimes those shares are, maybe sometimes I shouldn't have shared those things, but,
And
anyways, you get what you get, and I'm pretty genuine. That's the thing. And I think you are. And that's the thing I found with you're very much a genuine person, and you see people out there that, and you see people that'll approach you about, hey, Mark, how about this? And you could tell they're used car salesmen. You can just tell right away. It's like, right. I really don't have much, you might be nice to them, but you're like, I don't really want to have much to do with you because you're kind of shifty, and I'm not into that stuff.
Yeah. And the race to 0 followers also I was just having fun. I was just having a good time because at the time, people were like, I'm going to unfollow you. So I was like, all right, well, let's just lean into this a little bit. So that's what I did. I like to have fun. I like to talk trash, and I don't really, I'm not into hurting people. I'm not into offending people. I'm not into pissing people off. I just say things that people might interpret a different way than what I'm trying to convey, or maybe it just doesn't fly with them, and that's fine.
Well, Mark, I'll tell you what, since you're not on social media, where do folks go to find Mark Bell and your stuff, the Slingshot stuff, the new products, the new protein? Does it have a name yet? I know Stan did a cute little video a few years ago about him in his protein shake, and he opened a bottle and he pulled a steak out of it. So that's effectively, maybe you're inspired by Stan. And so where do they go to find out more about Mark Bell, Slingshot, and then the upcoming stuff?
Yeah, so the steak shake, that's what it's called. It's called Mark Bell's Steak Shake, and that'll be available at markbellslingshot.com. You can look for that within the next 2 weeks or so. And then I do have social media platforms. I just don't run them anymore. They're run by some robots over at Tesla. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell, and I have a YouTube channel, and which is also Mark Smelly Bell. And I have an older YouTube channel, which is Super Training 06. But I just want to point out to people like that, I've been doing these YouTube videos and I've been sharing this information for a long time, and I continue to do so. And it's just something I really enjoyed doing. And on my podcast. I end up having great guests like Dr. Baker. We talk a lot about nutrition. We talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about a lot of different things. So if you want to check that out, that's Mark Bell's Power Project. And I just appreciate, anybody that's listening to this and watching this right now, that's a fan. I appreciate your support, and I'm excited about, some things coming up.
Well, amen, Mark. And Nancy, once again, saying hi to your dad. I guess she knows him from years back. And so Nancy Smith. And then I look forward to the day when I can have robots run my social media. I'm jealous, man. Anyway, all right, man. Have a good day. I look forward to seeing you in person at some point again. I know we will. And stay strong. And I know you will. And I'm going to go do that. I like the Rogan. Yeah, maybe we'll get back on Rogan again.
This shirt is a joke. It says, "Don't listen to Joe Rogan," and people get all mad. But the reason why I made it is because Joe Rogan said, "Don't listen to Joe Rogan" on one of his shows. And he said, "Don't try a keto diet. Don't do jujitsu. Don't," and it's just all the things that he enjoys. And he was like, "F it. Don't listen to me." So I made this shirt. And so people see it and they're like, "Why are you telling people not to listen to Joe Rogan?"
That's funny. I'm sure Joe gets the humor too. So anyway.
Right.
All right, man. Take care, Mark. We'll talk to you later. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. See you later, Mark.